of the proposals, and you're going to be guiding this board, which, with the exception of Frank, and I guess Harold has staffed it. I'm sure you're responsible for hiring and firing guys on your crew right now. So certainly not interviewing somebody at this level. Has there ever been an opportunity, or have you ever taken the opportunity, part of the justification for this new process, or this new person, coming in, this new township manager, is that we're going to be able to offset some of the salary through the cost savings that he's going to bring to us. I heard that statement. Is that fair? Is there anything going to be built in an incentive plan that says, hey, you make extra base salary, and if you save us some money, you participate in that, like any other normal business organization? I mean, that's when I run my businesses, and I have multiple. If I'm bringing somebody on board that says they can make me money, if you save me $1, I'll give you 50 cents, or I'll give you 25 cents, or whatever the case may be. In a case like this, and I've asked this question of other municipalities before, school boards, they look at me like I have 3 heads. Like, you expect us to hire somebody and then have them perform before we pay them, and not just get more and more money every year that they're here because they're tenured? And it's a concept that I would like to see reversed in this municipality, that if we're going to bring somebody on board, to have it performance-based and have very clear, so that we don't build ourselves into a situation where we've got another employee that's impossible to fire, or next to impossible, or difficult, or expensive to fire, and has no stake in the game other than punching a clock and getting a paycheck. There you go.
Well, number one, you're right, it's multi-part. First of all, yes, you can certainly put into it performance standards. You are right. It is not common to see bonus plans built into a compensation of a typical manager.
Well, it's a matter of putting their money where their mouth is. You say the justification is they're going to save us money. Well, if you save us money, then you get the top tier. If you're that qualified and you're that struck, and you meet all the qualifications and MBAs and experience and everything else, and we are, because my point is here, if somebody comes in and they don't save us any money, and we weren't doing that bad of a job without him, then why should he stay here? And that'll show up very, very clearly if there's a performance-based package for him to adhere to.
There's a nuance to labor law, and frankly, you know, your experience with these things is why I can answer this question. Even though I'm not an attorney, Tim can certainly jump in and tell me if I'm wrong. But under the second-class township code, in fact, there is a law right now that is being proposed. It's running through the Senate of Pennsylvania that would make legal the process of having employment agreements with township managers. Right now it occurs, but there's really no legal basis for it. Having said that, in any employment agreement, the only thing that says a manager gets paid anything is a severance clause. Managers are at will. If a board of supervisors, let alone doesn't like the way that manager is managing, parting their hair, whatever it may be, provided that there's not some other law related to, I won't get into the various laws, you apparently know this, you can terminate a manager without cause.
I understand that, and that's why I asked who was going to be involved in negotiating this thing. Because if I'm going to negotiate it, and I know that's the downside for the township, is that we have to get rid of somebody, I'm going to make sure that that termination clause and that severance package is in the favor of us as taxpayers, and not a typical situation where, yeah, we can get rid of them and we'll pay them X number of dollars or whatever else. And if the guy's coming in here, we're starting in a new direction in this township with this concept, not new outside of this township, but for this township, and anything that can be applied to apply some less than prehistoric thought process about how people should be compensated and make it somehow tied to performance, I'm all in. Guy comes in here and saves us some money and justifies his salary, I'm all in. Gladly paying his salary. Okay, I don't need another bureaucrat sitting here, and I'm not saying that anybody here is that, but I'm just saying in general. I don't need another bureaucrat in government that we're paying a salary for that's contributing in a minimalistic way. And the question why I asked, are you going to be involved, is because of the people in the room. I think with your experience from what I've understood from you to say, you'd be best situation to say, okay, here's what, if you've grown familiar with this township and you know what our cost of doing business is, there's got to be pretty easy, it has to be fairly simple to pull out parameters that can be measured and set that as a baseline for this guy to be compared against. Then it's simple. You meet the grade, you stay, you keep your job, you don't move on. And there's not, that's your severance package, okay? And obviously I'm not oversimplifying it.
I understand. Listen,
it's
pretty simple. Anyone, you have to have accountability and performance measurement to determine whether or not they're doing their job, they should continue to do their job, or whether they should be given a raise, let alone a bonus. I understand what you're saying.
Okay, and like I said, I've heard comments, and I don't know the veracity of this, so I'm just going to throw it out there as rumor at this point, but there's some comments that sometimes people think that you can't run a township like a business. And I wholeheartedly disagree with that, okay? Fiscal responsibility, proper management responsibility, these things are universal to whether you're running a municipality with 3,000 or 5,000 people in it and a budget of $7 million, or you're running a stupid business where you dig holes for a living and fill them full of water, okay? Which is what I used to do, okay? The principles are the same, all right? And as such, if we're going to start in a new direction, and if this comes to the point where this person is going to be put on board, I'd like to see somebody find out what the legality and what the opportunity is here to bring this person on board and have them so that they have a performance-based package as part of their overall compensation package. That's my point.
Your point, two things you said that are very important. Relative to business and government. The word you use is principles. Yes, the business principles of the business of government are different than the corporate sector. One's profit-based, one's not. Okay?
I understand that.
All right. Yeah. All right. So
I'm biting my tongue.
And having done both, I can tell you, I understand what you're saying. The point of requiring a bachelor's and master's in public administration and that experience is because of those differences in how you run a private sector business versus a public sector business. But you are correct that yes, they're both businesses, and yes, a lot of the business principles that are in play in the private sector can be adapted and used in the public sector.
The only thing I don't really understand what you're saying to me, and I'd like clarification, is somehow having a college education or a certain amount of experience in your mind automatically gives you cause to think that this person is capable. I mean, I have all kinds of degrees, okay?
I didn't say capable.
Okay, what did you say?
I said the reason you require that education and experience is so that you have built-in experience in the business management of government.
Okay.
The biggest difference, Mark, is that businesses in this country are making trillions and the government's bankrupt.
Well, they're spending.
So there's your differences.
Well, you know, and again, I think that's a little bit oversimplified as well. Okay, but I think skill sets, if you're an effective manager, you're an effective manager. I don't care how many initials you have after the end of your name, okay? And I went to school with a bunch, and I've worked with even more since I've been out of school. Unfortunately now, with all the silver hair comes some experience, okay? And as such, you know, the right person for the job shines, and the right person for a job does not usually shy away from a challenge or being challenged, okay? And I don't care what your degree is, okay? I've got a lot of smart people that used to work for me and continue to work for me that don't have any degrees whatsoever. Some of them don't even have a high school education. They have a work ethic, and they understand fiscal responsibility and hard work. And why can't we just build some of that in? If we're going to create a new position, and if it's I'd love the opportunity to work with Tim on this situation. Tim and I happen to know each other reasonably well. I'd love the opportunity to work with him and say, hey, let's create this position, and let's try to build some accountability into it other than the normal government safeguards that exist. Because quite candidly, from what I see, and you look at every avenue, every area of government, okay, the incentive to provide good service and efficiency is not there right now. That's why we're spending so much more money than this government is taking. Okay, and that's way beyond the discussion for this room. Okay, but the bottom line is that we have an opportunity here to change that. Let's not just accept the status quo and move forward. Let's make the change now while we're changing the face of this township.
Good.